All right, welcome. Today, we are diving deep, really deep, into the heart of the Zohar. We're going to look at one single powerful line that basically unlocks a cosmic blueprint. We're talking about a 12-letter name of creation, and get this, it was transmitted in the darkness of a cave. Now, this isn't just some old story. This is like looking at the source code of reality itself. This is the story of how that divine code was literally engraved into the fabric of existence. So let's jump right in.
So here's the line that started it all, and here is the engraved name of 12 letters that was transmitted to Elijah in the cave. That's from the Zohar, Bereshit, Daf 16a. Now I want you to really picture this with me. Imagine it in 4K, full cinematic style. You've got Elijah the prophet, he's totally alone, in deep, deep concealment. He's in this silent, pitch-black cave on Mount Horeb. You can feel how heavy and still the air is. But then, everything changes. Suddenly, these currents of pure, living light just start to flow. And they're not just lighting up the darkness. No, they are literally carving themselves into the very fabric of the space, into the stone, into the air itself, into existence. And these rites come together, they coalesce, and they form this radiant, shimmering name of 12 distinct letters. It's a structure of pure divine energy.
Okay, so to really get what just happened there, we need a bit of a roadmap. We're going to travel through 5 distinct parts to unpack this whole thing. First up, we'll look at the engraving in the cave, then the blueprint of primordial chaos. From there, we'll get into decoding the 12-letter name. Then we'll see how it's reality's operating system, and finally, how we can start living the cosmic code. All right, let's start at the beginning, at the Peshat level. That's the plain, simple, literal story. Because, to really grasp a mystical moment this huge, we've got to ground it in the human story. And that story comes straight from the Book of Kings, where we find the prophet Elijah at his absolute lowest point. He's fleeing for his life, he's totally isolated, and just in complete despair.
Yeah. See, Elijah isn't on some kind of glamorous spiritual quest here. Far from it. He's a fugitive. He's hiding out from Queen Jezebel, who literally wants him dead. So he's in this state of total isolation, and he's convinced he's the last one left fighting the good fight. But here's the thing, it's exactly in that space, in that crucible of despair, when the entire external world is shut out, that the internal, divine reality can finally break through. The cave, it becomes like an echo chamber for the divine. It's the one place where the signal can finally get through all the noise of the world.
And you have to pay really close attention to the specific word the Zohar uses here. It's glyphon. It means engraving. And this is so key because this is not writing. Think about it. Writing puts ink on a page, right? It's an addition. But engraving carves into the substance. It reveals a structure that's already within. So what the Zohar is telling us is that these 12 letters, they're not just symbols about reality. They are the structured substance of reality. This was a permanent encoding of divine energy right into the matrix of existence itself. Huge difference. So, okay, this divine act of engraving, this fundamental structuring of reality, it naturally leads us to the next big question, right? What exactly is this 12-letter code? And maybe even more important, what was the raw, unstructured, chaotic stuff that it was designed to organize in the first place? To figure that out, we got to go to the next level.
All right, welcome to the Remez level. This is where we look at the hints, the symbols, the deeper layer of meaning. And here we're going to decode the 4 primordial forces that are mentioned right in the first verses of Genesis. The Zohar says these are the raw, untamed energies that existed before creation as we know it. This is the very stuff that the 12-letter name was brought in to structure and stabilize. Okay, so the first state is Tohu. You usually see it translated as chaos. The mystics have this incredible image for it. They call it the state of the primordial kings who died. What does that mean? It means these immensely powerful, raw energies that just existed without any stable structure or vessel to hold them. It's like they burst their vessels. So think of it like pure, undifferentiated potential. Imagine a universe of data all compressed into a single tiny point, but with no operating system to actually read it or make sense of it. That's Tohu. Right after that raw energy of Tohu, you get Bohu, the void. But hold on, this isn't just emptiness. It's something much more profound. It's the potential for form. So if Tohu is the raw, unreadable data, Bohu is like the first hint of a container. It's the unformed vessel that's just starting to give shape to all that chaotic power. It's like the blueprint for the vessel, before the vessel itself has even been built. Then you've got Choshech, which means darkness. And this is so critical. In Kabbalah, darkness is not a negative thing. It's not evil. It's actually the fundamental principle of containment. It's what's known as gevura, or severity. It's the power that creates boundaries, that defines one thing as separate from another. I mean, think about it. Without this defining darkness, all the light of creation would just be one giant, infinite blur. Choshech is what allows individual forms to actually exist.
And last but not least, we have Ruach, or spirit. This is the divine breath, right? The animating current that moves through and brings life to the other three elements. It's the force that synthesizes everything, and it carries the potential for consciousness. So, why does all this matter? Why do we need to know about these four forces? Because this exact same dynamic, chaos, potential, definition, and animation, it plays out inside of us, in our own minds, in our emotions, every single day.
And check this out. This is the next crucial step. The Zohar doesn't just list these chaotic forces and leave it at that. It actually maps specific divine names onto them. You see Shaddai for Tohu, Sivaot for Bohu, and so on. This mapping is the first crucial step toward order. It's the moment that divine intelligence starts to tame the chaos by giving each of these raw forces a specific signature, a name. You can feel it, right? Order is just beginning to emerge from the chaos.
Okay, let's go even deeper now, to the drash level, and see how this all builds into a stable system. Because that's the real question, isn't it? How do you take those four wild, chaotic forces and build a functioning cosmos out of them? Well, the answer is just beautiful. It's an elegant 4x3 system, a 12-part structure that is right at the very heart of all Kabbalistic thought. The number, of course, is 12, and you just know this is no accident. Just think about all the foundational structures in our world, in our very consciousness. You've got the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 months of the year, the 12 signs of the zodiac, the 12 boundaries of heaven and earth. 12 is the archetypal number for a complete, stable, perfect system. It's the blueprint for a balanced, functioning whole. So here's the formula, and this is the whole key. You take those four primordial realms we just talked about, Tohu, Bohu, Choshech, and Ruach, and each one of them gets structured and stabilized by a core concept from Kabbalah, the three fundamental pillars. Just think of them as the three primary forces that govern literally everything. You have the right column, that's all about expansion and giving. You have the left column, that's contraction and discipline. And then you have the center column, which is what creates that perfect balance and harmony between the two.
And this amazing map, which comes from the Gaon of Vilna, shows us that the 12 letters are anything but random. They're actually specific permutations of God's four-letter name, the YHVH, and they're mapped precisely onto the Sephirot, the 10 divine channels of energy. See how it works? The Yods line up perfectly with the right column of expansion. The Heys line up with the left column of contraction. The Vavs fall right down the balance center. And that last group of Heys? Well, that represents the final result, the manifested world, what we call Malkut, or the Shekinah, where this whole divine blueprint finally comes to life.
And now we arrive at the deepest level of all, the Sod, the secret. We've seen the story, we've unpacked the symbols, we've looked at the architecture. But now we have to ask the ultimate question. How does it actually work? How does this 12-letter name function as the literal operating system for reality? To unlock this, we're going to use a pretty modern analogy, which I think makes this ancient wisdom incredibly clear.
Okay, let's put on our tech hats for a second. The cave, it wasn't just a place to hide. Think of it as an isolated, secure environment. It's like a spiritual clean room or a secure server, totally free from any interference. And it's inside that secure space that Elijah received a decrypted master key. That key, of course, is the 12-letter name. And what is it? It's a composite system architecture. It is the master blueprint for reality, built on 4 primary modules. That's our 4 primordial realms. And each of those modules is running 3 essential subprocesses. Those are our 3 pillars. Put it all together and you have a complete interlocking operational matrix that governs all of existence. Pretty amazing, right? And it gets even cooler. There's this mystical text, the Sitre Otiot, or secret of the letters, and it describes this whole thing not as a static blueprint, but as a dynamic, flowing process of light and color. It says that 3 primary currents of spiritual light flow out from a single source. You've got a white light, which is the right pillar, expansive kindness. You have a red light for the left pillar, that's defining strength, and a green light for the balanced center pillar, for harmony.
Then each of these 3 primary colors branches out into 4 subharmonies, and boom, there are your 12 distinct channels. And then finally, all 12 of those hues pulse together as one unified living system, the structured body of creation made of light.
So, wow. We've come a long way, haven't we? From a lonely prophet in a cave all the way to the operating system of the cosmos. But now we come to the final, and honestly, the most important step, bringing this incredibly deep concept down to earth, into our own lives. How is this ancient blueprint relevant? How is it applicable for you and me right here, right now?
What's so beautiful about this framework is how incredibly scalable it is. I mean, for a kid, you could explain it just like a video game, right? You find a hidden cave, you get a secret 12-part power code, and it unlocks the whole world map. You just leveled up. But for an adult, for a cosmic engineer, the language gets more sophisticated, but the concept is exactly the same. You're accessing a foundational substrate of reality, decrypting a 12-fold key, and learning how to calibrate the operational matrix of the cosmos. It's all about understanding that deep modular architecture that governs any unified system, a person, a family, a business, or the entire universe.
And that really brings us to the final, and I think most provocative thought. If the entire universe operates on this structured, 12-fold system of harmony and balance, if this code is literally engraved into the fabric of reality, well then how can we start to align our own lives with this cosmic code? How can we start to see our own lives, our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, as a little microcosm of this grand divine architecture, and use that knowledge to bring more harmony and balance into our own little corner of the universe?
Thank you so much for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We really hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. And hey, if you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please do us a favor and like, subscribe, and maybe share which part of the journey really touched your soul down in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.